What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend. Dan Kasper Show's on the air on your radio dials. We got a couple of those 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Got the app, your Google and Alexa home devices. The video stream up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Appreciate you making us part of your start on this, not only on this Monday morning, but a brand new work week. What, first day of spring, I hear? Well, let's start to see it a little bit more, huh? Weather-wise, right? What do we got on the good old game plan here this morning? How about Badger women's hockey? Give them the leadoff spot here. A little shout out there. Seventh, count them, lucky number seven national championships for the Badger women's hockey team, defeating Ohio State, shutting them out yesterday 1-0. So another championship. Make some room on the shelf for another national championship for the Badger women's hockey team. You know, when you think about Mark Johnson, I mean, does he get enough like credit in terms of like Badger history, best Badger of all time? I mean, when you factor in everything, I know in the past, everybody's kind of done it, right? They've done like the Mount Rushmores, whether it's been the Mount Rushmore of Wisconsin sports or Badger stuff. You got Barry Alvarez. That's always kind of up there and such, and maybe even a little Mark Richter. But you think Mark Johnson kind of gets the short end sometimes? Like, does he get enough credit? Not, I mean, going back to his playing career and then coming back, being an assistant coach for the men's team, but what he's done with this women's hockey team. I mean, seven national championships. I don't think that guy gets enough credit. We all know, everybody kind of knows him, 1980 Olympics and all that. But when you talk about what he has done for this program, for this university, let's maybe start to give him a little bit more credit and put him a little bit higher on that all-time list for the Badgers, at least in my opinion. And I know probably some people already had him up there at the top or pretty near the top, but maybe now for those who kind of like, oh yeah, kind of forgot about Mark Johnson. Yeah, seven national championships, pretty darn awesome. Sticking with the Badgers, Badger basketball team, their postseason run still rolling in the NIT. They defeated Liberty. They're going to be taking on Oregon tomorrow night. They got to travel there. So they got to, if they win that, they're in the NIT's Final Four. So Badgers squeaking out that victory against Liberty yesterday. Good to see the Kohl Center was got some more fans in there compared to the first NIT game there. So I didn't know how full it would be with all of the kids coming back from spring break, but kudos. Nice job to everybody out there. So, but in terms of the March Madness NCAA bracket, if your bracket isn't busted at this point, you got to be feeling pretty good right now. Especially maybe if we're looking at the leaderboard on our bracket challenge, Aaron and Kathy. Aaron in sole possession of first place with 47 correct points. Kathy has 46. So you guys are doing better than me right now. But wow, what a crazy first few days in the NCAA tournament so far. Just two number one seeds remaining. That's Houston. That's Alabama. Purdue out. Another 16 seed. Kicking them out. What, Virginia and UMBC just a couple years ago now add Purdue to that list. So you got Kansas out, Marquette's out, Michigan State taking them down yesterday. So kind of pretty nuts. Baylor losing. How is your bracket looking? Anybody feeling really good about the bracket? Anybody who's listening right now feeling pretty darn good about their bracket so far? You got Alabama taking on San Diego State, Creighton taking on Princeton, Houston taking on Miami, Xavier taking on Texas. The two sides, or I should say the two regions that I thought might be a little bit more chalk. One of them is proving it. The other one, no. I thought, the South with Alabama would kind of be a little bit more chalk. Well, Alabama, San Diego State, it's a 1-5, but on the bottom, Creighton and Princeton, 15 and a 6. Heck no. Houston's taking on number 5, Miami, and then Xavier's 3 taking on Texas, who's 2. And then you look at the east side, you got FAU taking on Tennessee. Tennessee knocking down the kind of rolling Duke Blue Devils. So FAU taking on Tennessee. And then Kansas State defeating Kentucky. They'll be going up against Michigan State, who defeated Marquette. And then the west side of things, Arkansas, who took down Kansas, will be taking on UConn. UConn looking pretty good so far in this tournament. Looking pretty good, defeating Iona 87-63, defeated St. Mary's 70-55. Now they got an Arkansas team coming up here. You got UCLA versus Gonzaga. Both Zags and UCLA kind of squeaking by in their previous games. So we'll see how that one kind of plays out. But anybody feeling pretty darn good? I mean, I've got my national championship still alive. And I think I've got 3 of my Final Four. Yeah, I got 3 of my Final Four still alive. But whew, those first few days, those first couple rounds were pretty rough on myself. Got to admit it. Pretty darn rough. So we'll talk some college hoops throughout the morning here. Bucks, they're going to be bad. No, they're not. They're not back in action. I'm getting my days mixed up here already. They got a couple days off right now as they get set to take on the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday. But the Bucks defeated the Raptors last night, 118-111, picking up their 51st victory of the season. Getting close to wrapping up that regular season. Bucks remaining 2.5 games up. And now we kind of got something a little bit interesting brewing between the 2 and the 3 seeds here in the Eastern Conference, because Philly, now, by the slightest of edges in terms of win percentages, holding on to that second seed. 686, Boston 681. Philadelphia is 48-22, but Boston's 49-23. Both are 2.5 back from Milwaukee, but Philly is pretty hot right now. Winners of 8 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10 games. So Philadelphia maybe trying to get some momentum going. Maybe they can catch Milwaukee up here. But we got a battle brewing here between these top 3 seeds, between Milwaukee and Philadelphia and Boston. Who's going to get that 1 seed? And then, kind of looking ahead a little bit, second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs between that 2 and 3 seed, if it were to get to that point, who's going to have the home court advantage there? And, maybe beating up on each other a little bit. If you kind of look at the top 3 teams in the East, they've got very similar home and away records. Milwaukee's 29-7 at home. Philly's 26-10. Boston's 26-9. Their road records: Milwaukee 22-13. Philadelphia 22-12. Boston 23-14. So, but good to see, Brook Lopez, Grayson Allen, those guys. Nothing major in terms of their injuries. They returned last night. Brook putting up 26. Grayson just playing in 26 minutes, only a couple points there. But Middleton seems like he's, kind of maybe back to form, playing 32 minutes last night, dropping 20 points too. So, but we'll throw a little Bucks chat in there too. Our good friend of the show, Mr. Peter King, is going to be hopping on, NFL Insider, Football Morning in America, NBC Sports. Peter King will be hopping on at about 7:05 this morning. I think you all know what we're probably going to chat with him about here this morning. In his latest column, he kind of talked a little bit about Rodgers and, again, about maybe what that trade compensation will be regarding Aaron Rodgers. I know it won't be probably very popular amongst Packers fans here, but we'll kind of see how it all plays out at this point. But Packers, they did bring back Rudy Ford, so they brought him back for another year. That's kind of where things have been at so far. these last few days. So not a whole lot of movement. Not a whole lot of movement. But Peter will be joining us in less than an hour from now. Boys State basketball wrapping up this weekend too. Chippewa Falls McDonald, they ended up falling in the championship game to Wassa Newman. But that game Friday, that was quite the thrilling game on Friday, where McDonald squeaking out the victory. But still, congrats on a great season, bringing back the silver ball there. Division One, we saw De Pere completing the undefeated season, defeating Arrowhead. D2, we saw Pewaukee defeat Whitnall. D3, West Salem defeated Brilliant. D4, Luther defeated Kenosha St. Joseph Catholic, excuse me, as we just mentioned. Chippewa Falls McDonald falling to Wassa Newman in Division 5. So, but congrats again to all of the state boys basketball participants. As kind of closing a chapter on the winter sports season. Let's go now, spring. All right, let's get that snow melted and let's get it into gear here. But that was a fantastic, very entertaining Chippewa Falls McDonald game on Friday. We were watching a little bit of it. Again, big thanks to everybody who showed up Friday at Hy-Vee for a little lunch, a little free beer Friday, watching some of the games. A lot of fun seeing everybody out there. So, but yeah, had some good hoops action, no doubt about it. Other stuff on the dockets here. It is a Monday, so your studs and duds from the weekend, or if you want to go a little bit before the weekend, you can do so there. So hit me up with your studs and duds with a quick text, 715-830-1912. We'll do a little Monday morning quarterbacking action. And then we'll do a little motivational Monday. So we got those on the docket as well. So let's just kind of do a little bit of a smorgasbord. Oh, yeah, and then we'll throw a little baseball talk in here too. World Baseball Classics, and I think for the games that I've been kind of able to follow and watch and such, been pretty darn entertaining. Been pretty darn entertaining. I know at the beginning of this thing, we were kind of throwing out there, hey, how many of you are going to be following it? How many of you are going to, you know, really pay attention to it? But Team USA's back to the championship game. Trey Turner's been looking pretty darn good too. We are less than 2 weeks away from opening day, so baseball season's getting there. But we'll throw a little baseball chat in this thing as well. So, but let's do a little bit of a smorgasbord to open up things on this Monday morning. How's your brackets looking? What was, in your opinion, the biggest upsets over the weekend or the last few days? Was it Purdue falling in that opening round because they were a 1 seed? Or maybe you're just not a big buyer on Purdue. What surprised you the most? Or what was the game that busted your bracket? Maybe that's the best question to kind of throw in this thing. What was the game that really busted your bracket? And then do you think Mark Johnson, kind of the question that I threw out there right away, do you think he kind of gets overlooked in Badgers lore, Badgers history, when we talk about some of the best of all time? When we talk about those Mount Rushmores and Wisconsin sports or maybe Badger sports, I think we kind of take him for granted a little bit. Does he get a little bit overlooked? Can't overlook him with 7 national championships now, right? Fantastic program. So let's get this Monday morning rolling now. We'll take that first break, and then the lead off, we'll talk a little college sports coming up here. Bracket updates, Badger women's hockey, all that good stuff. We'll be back after these quick words. Mark your calendars because we got a bunch of stuff coming up here. March 30th. All right, we're going to give you 3 dates here, so make sure you're putting it in your phones, marking it on your calendars and such. March 30th, we got an opening day, baseball opening day viewing party grill outs over at Hy-Vee. We'll start it up around noon. The game at 125, I think, somewhere around there, 125, 130. Brew Crew versus the Cubbies. So we're going to do opening day right, grilling up some burgers and brats and such. Got that. Then the day after, May 31st, we're going to be hanging out over at West Side Bar and Grill, west side of Eau Claire, because, well, now they've got Man Cave Lights on tap. They're going to have some of the brats that we got with Mike's Star Market over there. Got the brat and the pint combo. So we're going to hang out there about 12 to 2 on March 31st. Okay. And then April 7th, we're going to be back at Hy-Vee for a live broadcast in the morning. We'll start it up at 6 in the morning, but a live broadcast for the Masters. But big shout out to Carpet City Flooring Center, our good friends from Carpet City Flooring Center. They're going to be putting together a putting green, okay? This is a custom putting green that they're going to be putting together, and we're going to have a putting challenge. So if you're on your way to work, you can stop by. You got 3 putts. All right, 3 putts. Everybody's going to get a ticket for at least trying a putt, but you're going to get 3 of them. The more putts you make, obviously, the more tickets you're going to get, and the better chance to win some prizes, including from Carpet City Flooring Center, a new Callaway driver or a new Odyssey putter. Pretty sweet over there too. And we'll probably throw in a free team for the Kasper Classic coming up later on this summer too. So put that on your calendar for April 7th. We'll be doing a live show from Hy-Vee, but we got that putting challenge brought to you by our good friends from Carpet City Flooring Center. Anybody can stop by, anybody can participate, and you're at least going to get a ticket in the drawing for that either putter or driver or whatever have you. You'll get one for trying. So if you are a lefty, Surveyor Sam, bring your own putter if it's not too much trouble. I'll have mine there. I'm a righty, though. So if you just want to stop by, like, hey, dude, I only got a couple minutes here, and you're righty, go ahead and use mine. I don't care. Just don't jinx it. Go ahead and use mine if you want. If anybody's wondering, it's a single blade Odyssey, if that makes any difference, okay? So you can use mine if you want. Or, no need to use a wedge or anything like that, okay? We're going to use the putter. So a lot of good stuff coming up here in the next couple weeks. It's going to be it's going to be really busy, but it's going to be a whole lot of fun here. So looking forward to that. Let's lead things off here this morning, talking some college sports, huh? Let's talk some college sports. How's your brackets looking, people? How are they all looking right now? The first couple of rounds, the last few days here, well, we definitely had some madness. The Midwest region kind of mostly going all chalk. That's the region that we really didn't see any upsets, unless you want to call 5-seeded Miami over 4-seeded Indiana a major upset. Not me. I mean, Pitt did beat Iowa State in 11-6, but in terms of the teams who were in the Sweet 16 out of the Midwest, pretty much all chalk. Houston, number 1, taking on Miami, number 5. Xavier, number 3, taking on number 2, Texas. And then, I mean, you kind of looking around here. You got Alabama that's also moving on. They're taking on number 5, San Diego State. I think that could be an interesting game. I really think that could be an interesting game between Alabama and San Diego State and that 1-5 matchup. Alabama's been kind of cruising, defeating Texas A&M Corpus Christi by 21 in the opening round, defeating Maryland 73-51. But San Diego State, too, getting by Charleston, that tricky 5-12 matchup, 63-57, but they bounced back going up against Furman, defeating them 75-52. Great. I was watching that game last night before Hudson went to bed, and they're just like the buckets. I mean, every shot they were putting out was going down. Baylor tried to go on a little bit of a run here or there, but Blue Jays weren't having any of it. And now I think they're in a good spot to make that Elite Eight. They're going up against 15-seeded Princeton. No offense to the Ivy Leaguers of Princeton over there, but Blue Jays got to be feeling pretty good with their chances of advancing to the Elite Eight there. Obviously, in the East, the big one was Purdue, a 1 seed, falling in the opening round to Fair Dickinson, 63-58, which set up a FAU Fair Dickinson matchup to go in the Sweet 16 that I should say everybody picked, but odds are maybe somebody actually did put that in their bracket. But FAU advanced, and where they will go up against Tennessee. Tennessee taking down Duke. Dookie, a popular pick for a lot of people because, I mean, they were playing some really good basketball heading into this tournament. But Coach Shire, his run ending with just short of advancing to the Sweet 16. So FAU versus Tennessee. That winner will take on Kansas State versus Michigan State. Kansas State, the 3 seed, taking down Kentucky. And then Marquette falling to Michigan State, 69-60. Tom Izzo. And I guess Mr. Hauser, too, kind of, revenge is a little bit of a strong word, but taking down his former team with Marquette there. So Marquette's great, wonderful season falling just short of a Sweet 16 bid. Arkansas defeating Kansas. They're going up against UConn. UConn, again, one of those teams that was a popular pick to advance fairly deep in this tournament. Outside of the 1s and 2 seeds, they're 4 seed. They're going up against 8 Arkansas, where they will face the winner between. I think this will be a good game too. Gonzaga versus UCLA. I think that'll be a good one there too. So, if you had to redo your Final Four picks based off the Sweet 16 matchups, what would they be? I think if I were to redo mine, starting off in the South, stick with Alabama. I'll go with Alabama in there. I had Kansas State in the East in my Final Four. I'll stick with them, although Tennessee gave me a little bit of pause. I'll stick with Kansas State. Why not? I'm going to stick with Houston. UCLA is a little bit banged up, so I think I would switch it up to UConn. So if I had to redo my Final Four, I would go Alabama, Kansas State, Houston, and UConn. And then my national championship, I'll stick with Alabama versus Houston. I'll stick with that. So actually, I think I've got. Let me double check. Do I have all my Final Four teams left? I don't even remember what I did with my bracket. I'm looking it up on our official bracket board. My kid's still beating me by 2. I'm in 9th, and I know it wasn't not good. But do I still have my? I'll have to sign in. It's not loading up for me. I thought I picked all. I can't remember if I had Arizona or Alabama. I thought I had Alabama in there, but nonetheless, that's if I had to switch it up, I'd probably take UCLA out of it and just put UConn in there for me. Although, like I said, Tennessee's kind of giving me just a little bit of pause. But how about you? Hit me up with the text if you want, or on the video stream, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. I'm trying to sign in, but my computer's being a little crabby here this morning. Okay, now I think I finally got it. Refresh me. Who did I have in my Final Four? Oh, okay, cool. Still not working. All right, whatever. I'll check it later. Sticking with college hoops though. Badgers moving on. They squeaked by Liberty. Are you going to start to pay attention a little bit more now that the Badgers, or maybe you kind of did after the first NIT game, watching it yesterday against Liberty? I do have all my Final Four teams. All right. Yes. Alabama, Kansas State, Houston, UCLA. Never mind. Sticking with all of them. I'm feeling pretty good right now. Okay. But Wisconsin getting by Liberty. Are you kind of paying a little bit more attention now? You're like, okay, one spot away from the NIT Final Four. They got Oregon Ducks coming up tomorrow. Chucky Hepburn dropping 27 points yesterday. 27 points, and he was 0 for 6 from 3. Badgers actually just shot, get this. They shot 15 3-pointers yesterday, okay? Did anybody see this? Probably did. They shot 15 3-pointers, 6.7% from the three. Made one of 15 from three. Yet, you factor all that in, they shot 54% from the field. Going just 6.7% from three, 1 of 15. Overall, they still shot 54%. Okay. There you have it. But now the Badgers will be going up against the 1 seed Oregon Ducks. That game is going to be a little bit of a late one. So you're looking at 8 p.m. because they got to go to Oregon, the West Coast over there. But if the Badgers get that done, then they advance to the Final Four of the NIT. Kind of looking at the matchup predictor on ESPN, and we'll break this down a little bit more detail with like RJ tomorrow and such. But 77.1% favors Oregon in this game. Oregon's 15-5 at home this year, 21-14 overall. So it's gonna be a tough battle here for the Badgers, nonetheless. But it's good to see that. I think, after that first NIT game, and I know kids were on spring break or whatever. It wasn't Kohl Center wasn't, full up. Not a lot of people there yesterday. Good crowd there. Maybe starting to buy in there a little bit. But I'll really be curious. Let's say if the Badgers beat the Ducks tomorrow. Let's say if the Badgers beat the Ducks tomorrow. Okay. And they advance to that to the Final Four. Will there be a good Badgers contingent that will travel to Vegas to Orleans Arena and support the ball club, even though it is NIT? Do you think they'll do that? Do you think there'll be a good group? I think there'll be a solid group. Maybe not as big as like a normal Final Four, but I think there'll be a solid group. But we'll break that down a little bit more tomorrow with RJ. But staying with the Badgers and Mark Johnson, do you think he kind of gets overlooked when we talk about some of the best Wisconsin Badger figures in history? I know in the past we have talked about Mount Rushmores. If you had to pick like one representative from, the major sports teams, professional college or whatever, Packers are always a debate. Brewers, I mean, if you put it, not just players, but anybody with the organization, people are going to put Bob Uecker on there. Maybe some will put Selig on there for bringing the Brewers back to Milwaukee. Player-wise, they're probably going to put Robin Yount up there for a lot of people. Bucks, probably between Giannis and Kareem, but I feel like the majority now would go Giannis. Badgers, I think, for a lot was Barry Alvarez, and rightfully so. I get it. But don't you think we got to start to really consider putting Mark Johnson in that conversation? Like, if you were to do a Badger sports athletic department Mount Rushmore, is Mark Johnson in your top 4? And if not, who is? You put Barry in there. You probably put Pat Richter maybe in there. Do you go a little old school, throw in some players? But you look at Mark Johnson, you look at his playing career, obviously 1980 Olympics, and then what he has done with his Badger women's hockey program, winning 7 freaking national championships. 7. And honestly, would it surprise anybody if they, get like 3 more before he calls it a career? 1 for each finger? 10. I'll throw that out there, maybe a little bold prediction, if you will. But do you think he kind of gets a little overlooked? I think he does. We all know him. We all know his history. We all know he has done fantastic things throughout his career. But I think when you talk about all-time best Badgers, Mount Rushmore stuff, you look at players. A lot of people will look at players. They'll throw Barry Alvarez in there. But when you factor in everything, you got to seriously think about putting Mark Johnson on that list, on that top list, that top 4. think you do. So let's create it. Who would you put in your Badger athletic department? It can be players, it can be coaches, it can be athletic directors, just Badger athletic people. I want to factor in everything on this thing. Because Barry Alvarez. I think you have to factor what he did as a football coach and then as an athletic director. Bo Ryan, what he did for the men's basketball program. Mark Johnson, players wise, Joe Thomas, who's going into the Hall of Fame, Mike Webster. So, who would you put in that Mount Rushmore of Badger athletic people, sports people? It's going to be tough, I think. It's going to be a little tough. So text those to me, all right? Let's see if we can get kind of a voting thing out there. And then by the end of the program here, we'll see where kind of everybody's votes have gone. And maybe we'll have our own, as voted on by you, the listeners, Badger Sports Mount Rushmore. Okay. Text me up, 715-830-1912, or on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports, or you can comment on the video stream too. Kind of curious to see where this goes. And I'm sure some people maybe kind of gravitate more towards players, but I don't know. We'll see how this all plays out. So, all right. So start hitting me up. We're going to take a quick break and then finish up the first hour. Reminder, just past 7 o'clock, about 7:05, we'll catch up with a good friend of the program, NFL insider, Mr. Peter King. His new column dropping this morning. Obviously, there's some nuggets in there about his thoughts about the Aaron Rodgers and Packers situation. We'll kind of tee that up before we talk to Peter and such, but we'll catch up with him. No JC in the EC, no Justice Cleveland here this morning. So, but we kind of went through the prep stuff. State boys basketball again. Congrats to Chippewa Falls McDonald. They did fall to Wassanuman, but bring in back the Silver Ball Blue Golds. I mean, they're on softball and such. I believe baseball. They're in warmer weather, getting some games in. So lucky them being down in Florida and such. But I think I think even the tennis programs down there in Florida too. So they're enjoying the warmer climates, if you will. But we're getting ready for some spring sports action. They've kind of already been in play for the Blue Golds right now, but maybe get closer to some conference play and get some nicer weather up here so we can kind of partake and watch some of those games here locally. But we'll take that break, and we'll be back to finish up the first hour after these quick words. Living a dream, Jeff. His Mount Rushmore of Badger athletic, Badger sports people. Is that the easiest way to go about it? Mark Johnson, Ron Dane, Barry Alvarez, Bo Ryan, just for what they have done for Madison. Of course, there are others that have excelled professionally. G-Man also going with Pat Richter, Barry Alvarez, Ron Dane, and Bo Ryan. So got some common ones in there. Well, both of you got 3 out of the 4, I think, over there. So I put it up on Facebook and Twitter if you'd rather chime in on there. But hit me up with a text. We're trying to come up with our Badger Sports Mount Rushmore. Is Mark Johnson on there for you with his 7 national championships? And who else would be on there? Or if he's not, who is? We'll kind of do a little bit of a voting thing and see where everything's added up to right before the end of the program. So, okay. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we should be catching up with our good friend, Mr. Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBC Sports, his latest column for Football Morning in America dropping earlier this morning. And he's leads off the column with a thought for every team so far this offseason. And coming in at Green Bay, he's got a couple things. The first thing, and he mentioned this on the Dan Patrick Show the other day, but he writes, I think it's silly to try to get a first round pick off the Jets this year. The New York picks 13th in the first round, and with no apparent guarantee that Rodgers, entering his age 40 season, will definitely play in 2024, the Jets would be foolish to give up a pick that could be used on the second or third best offensive lineman in the draft to protect Rodgers. The fairest deal, Jets trade a second rounder this year, which is the 43rd overall, and a conditional pick in 2025, not 2024, based on whether Rodgers plays football for New York in 2024. If he plays 100 snaps or more in 2024, which like 2-3 games worth, the Jets give Green Bay a first round pick. If Rodgers plays less than that, then the Jets give Green Bay a third rounder. So if Rodgers plays 2 years for New York, the price is a first and a second. If he plays 1 year, the price is a second and a third. I totally see Green Bay's point about playing hardball for Rodgers, but the 13th pick in the draft for a guy who might play 1 year, I don't see it unless Rodgers flat out guarantees the Jets he's there for 2 years minimum. I'm not considering paying the 2023 one for him. So I'm going to ask something from you Packers fans, and I know it might be a little bit tough, but let's try to take the homerism, the fanism hat off here for a second. Would you be okay if for this year, because we don't know what's going to happen in 2024, it could be a first, if we're going to use Peter's scenario here, it could be a first, it could be a third, but would you be okay? Or what would your reaction be if for just this year, it was a second round pick, the 43rd overall? Now, I know it might be kind of, I'll tell you right now, I want the first round pick. I want two picks in the top 15. I would love that. And honestly, if the Jets were willing to offer that right now, Green Bay's probably already sending over the trade sheets and everything. But if it was just that second rounder, but knowing you're going to get a pick in 2025, it might be a third, it might be a first, depending on if Aaron plays or not. What do you say? The other thing on here, too, as Peter noted, having covered Brett Favre from Green Bay to the Jets 15 years ago, I find this one part of the comparable stories to be eerily similar. Green Bay GM Ted Thompson wanted an all-in Favre in March of 2008. Favre wasn't willing to commit to being an offseason warrior and retired before coming back in a trade to the Jets. I think when this story is finished, we'll see that Green Bay GM Brian Gutekunst wanted an all-in Rodgers in March 2023, and he knew he wouldn't get it. More evidence for that got piled on the other day when Rodgers told Pat McAfee he was 90% retired when he went into his recent darkness retreat. So just like the late Thompson turned to the unproven fourth-year former first-rounder Rodgers to step in for Favre. Now Goody turns to the unproven fourth-year former first-rounder Jordan Love to replace Rodgers. So, yeah, there you go. I think a lot of that has to deal with the offseason commitment. And you kind of wonder if Rodgers would have said after the season that, hey, I'll be here all offseason. I'm committed. All offseason workouts, that sort of thing. And maybe it plays into a different decision at hand here a little bit. But there was also an interesting quote or an interesting liner that came from, it came from Peter's column here too, but it came from, Randy Mueller, who's a former general manager in the league too, about Aaron Rodgers. Let me see if I can find it up here really quickly. But he kind of noted about Aaron always being on. Yeah, here it is. I think it's all the other three-ring circus that comes with it. Nobody wants to put their organization on blast every Tuesday for a podcast, and that's really what the Packers have been. That was former NFL GM Randy Mueller on the Football GM podcast with Mike Sando on why more teams haven't been interested in dealing for Aaron Rodgers. The podcast refers to is obviously the Pat McAfee Show, which I thought was kind of interesting in there too. Was like, yeah, I could see that. I definitely can see that. And I kind of wonder if that plays into the slight majority. I'm going to say slight majority because I haven't seen anything else that says otherwise. But of all the social media polls and all of stuff we've talked about, it seems like a slight majority are okay or good with Rodgers moving on. And I wonder how much of that does play with his weekly appearances on Pat McAfee. Is it just, you're burned out a little bit? You're like so tired of some of the comments. It's like, what does he mean by that? Maybe the passive aggressiveness. If he wasn't on Pat's show Tuesdays with Eric, would there be a little bit of a different feel? I kind of wondered that too. I mean, we'll never know. Obviously, it's, a butterfly effect, what if 2020 sort of thing. But when I saw that quote, I'm like, yeah, I can see where some teams don't want to necessarily dabble in it unless you're a really desperate team, maybe like the Jets. And of course, Jets, New York media. I mean, come on. But I kind of wonder, is that part of a reason too, or maybe it's a big part of a reason why there are a decent chunk of Packers fans that are just like eager to move on and move on from Rodgers because they then don't have the Tuesday sound bites or the Tuesday interviews. And then it's like, well, what did he mean by that comment? What is he referring to there? And I feel like a lot of times as fans, we want to hear more from athletes. We want to hear more instead of the generic, script speech, or we always say coach speak or general manager speak. Like they're saying something, but they're not saying something. They're talking, but nothing is really being said. And we've clamored for that, more of the personal side of these players and coaches and such. And I don't think there's any question. We got it from Aaron these last few years. We got more of the personal side. We got a peek inside the door. And I think for a lot of people, they saw that door open. They looked inside. They didn't like it. And they want to shut it. They want to slam that door, lock it up, and they're just done with it. I honestly feel like that's part, if not the biggest reason of why a lot of Packers fans are kind of just ready to move on from Rodgers. Just like, good riddance, see you later, that sort of thing. Could be wrong, but that's just my thoughts. So, all right, give me your Badgers sports figures. Mount Rushmore top four. Is Mark Johnson in there? And if not, Who is? Did you have him on there before the national championship from yesterday? Do you think he kind of gets a little bit overlooked when we talk about Badger greatness? Let me know. I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on that. So, okay, in a couple minutes, just after these news updates, we'll catch up with Mr. King. Then we'll throw in some more hoops talk here too. If you had to redo your Final Four or redo your national championship, who would you go in? Who would you go with? Assuming that your teams are out of it, or maybe your bracket's just kaput, ripped up, out of here. If you had to redo your Final Four, what would it be? And then I think we'll throw a little baseball talk in here too. Have you been watching the World Baseball Classic? The games that I've been kind of dabbling in and following along, been pretty good. USA's one win away again, baby. All right, one in. We got two more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these quick news updates.
AYY Eau Claire, W286CK Eau Claire, Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. From the 715 Newsroom, it's Morgan McCarthy with your news on Sports Talk 105.1.
Good morning. Well, here's what we're learning today. Coming out of a weekend, plugging into a new week, we begin locally and in the courts with a plea deal that could mean 26 years in prison for a former Eau Claire man. This is from a 2020 overdose death. 715 Newsroom coverage with John DeMaster.
Trenton Wick pleaded guilty Friday to first-degree reckless homicide by delivering drugs. This comes after police found a man dead in a car on Cochran Street back in December of 2020. Wick gave the man who died the drugs that killed him. He also pleaded guilty for a jailhouse fight in 2021 that injured another inmate. I'm John DeMaster.
Meanwhile, still following details, you may have heard sirens last night as crews were called to Banbury Place downtown. It was about 9:30 when that call came in for a fire, smoke seen coming out of the roof of the building. And I'm looking for some more answers later today. You can see the press release online, 715newsroom.com. Looking closer to campus, UW System President Jay Rothman says keeping a decade-long tuition freeze in place is unsustainable, but they also want to make sure that the bucks are affordable when it comes to being part of Bucky.
We just have to make an adjustment so that we can continue as well to meet that ultimate goal of delivering the highest quality education, a world-class education to our students.
If you have potential students in your family, just know that later this month, they'll be going to the UW Board of Regents looking for a 5% tuition increase this fall at UW schools. Let's back to the table for number 4. Mississippi's Department of Human Services wants a judge to keep Brett Favre as part of their lawsuit to recover misspent welfare dollars. DHS lawyers in Jackson, Mississippi last week said the judge should not allow Favre to walk away from the case as he's never been charged with a crime, but they say there's evidence that links him to a scheme to misspend millions of dollars that were supposed to go to families. Favre's lawyers say the state is using his status as a celebrity to distract from the real culprits in the case. Looking in some other headlines, if you're interested in hearing what candidates have to say, the one and only debate that both will appear for Wisconsin's record-breaking Supreme Court races tomorrow. Liberal Judge Janet Protasiewicz finally alongside conservative Justice Dan Kelly for a debate hosted by the State Bar of Wisconsin and a Madison TV station. That is set for tomorrow at 12:45 in the afternoon, and we'll keep details online with a click at 715newsroom.com. And how about your brackets? If they're all busted up and you just can't down another pint, how about a beer popsicle?
In celebration of March Madness, the big basketball month, Coors Light, the makers of beer, have a very special limited-run beer-flavored popsicle. It's non-alcoholic, and they say it tastes like real beer. It'll come in a tube like an Otter Pop, and it'll be available only for a limited time and only during March Madness. I'm Bree Tennis, NBC News Radio.
That's so funny. I saw Casper's plans for new items coming this summer, and he's going to try this with the Man Cave Light at Wahlburger. He wants to make it
very special limited-run beer-flavored popsicle.
For Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Morgan McCarthy.
Starting off the morning on a mild note, but we'll dip into the mid-20s by the mid-morning hours with some intervals of clouds and sun on tap for today. Starting off spring on a quiet note, temperatures climbing to the low 40s, and later tonight a few clouds hang around as we dip into the upper 20s once again. A few chances at some precipitation tomorrow could be of the mixed variety going into the afternoon, otherwise mostly cloudy and highs climbing to the upper 30s. I'm Skywarn 13 meteorologist Mike D'Andrea.
Good morning. It's time to take a look at some farm news on Sports Talk 105.1. The International Agribusiness Center, a part of DACAP, is hosting an agricultural trade mission to the United Kingdom June 10th through the 16th. As the UK's planned exit from the European Union, known as Brexit, continues, opportunities for food, forestry, and agriculture products will increase. Wood products, feed, livestock and genetics, craft spirits and beers, organic and specialty foods, and pet foods are among the products with the strongest opportunity. The UK is Wisconsin's 6th largest trading partner. A Wisconsinite has received a National Ag Teaching Award. Jessica Rettler, a teacher at Tri-County Elementary in Plainfield, has been selected as one of 8 recipients of the 2023 National Excellence in Teaching About Agriculture Award. The National Agriculture in the Classroom Organization, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and Farm Credit partner each year to honor teachers in pre-kindergarten through 12th grade from around the country for the innovative ways that they use agriculture. By Wisconsin's Agriculture in the Classroom after she was named the program's 2022 Outstanding Educator of the Year. Rettler will be honored at the 2023 National Agriculture in the Classroom Conference taking place June 26th through the 29th in Orlando, Florida. And a little bit closer to home, some good news for Chippewa County. The Chippewa County milk haulers will be exempt from future spring road bans. According to the Leader Telegram, the Chippewa County Board approved an ordinance on a 17-3 vote last week to establish a permit for licensed milk haulers to transport loads that exceed posted seasonal weight limits on county highways. The county's ordinance originally required milk haulers to obtain an oversized load permit at a cost of $100 a year. The revised ordinance eliminates that fee entirely on all milk trucks. That's a look at some of your farm news on Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Kristen Smith.
Family owned and operated, Toyson Ford is proud to serve the drivers of the Chippewa Valley with some of the most popular vehicles around Wisconsin and the country. They're committed to giving drivers from across the area the best in customer service with a top-notch selection of brand new vehicles to choose from, as well as an extensive inventory of pre-owned crossover, SUV, and trucks. Plus, with their expert finance, service, and part centers in-house, they strive to be your one-stop dealership for all of your automotive needs. Visit them today at 1000 Chippewa Crossing Boulevard in Chippewa Falls.
Crank it up. Hey, are you ready today? Get up. He's on his way. He's our man. The man, the myth, the legend. That's Dan. And now, the Dan Kasper Show.
Big thanks to Mr. Waller's 3rd grade class for composing that and creating that as a project. That's not a bad way to start off your Monday morning, hearing a bunch of talented 3rd graders with that. So big thanks again to Mr. Waller's 3rd grade class, for coming up with that and sending that over to us. Hopefully you're all off to a fantastic start on this Monday morning. Big thanks for tuning in wherever you may be tuning in. We start off this hour catching up with our good friend, Mr. Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBC Sports. Good morning, Peter. Thanks for hopping on again this morning. You know, we don't have a shortage of topics to be talking about right now. That's for sure. Kind of a throwback to 15 years ago, it seems like. I know you and I have kind of talked about that in the past, with the Rodgers kind of hee-hawing in the offseason, but here we are again 15 years later, and it sounds like he's going to be going to the Jets. Would you have ever thought, back in 2008, we'd be here again 15 years later? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, in your latest column that dropped this morning, you kind of talked about that, a second round pick this year. And then, maybe if he does play and plays over 100 snaps, then a 2025 first rounder. If he does play but doesn't play those snaps, then it's a third rounder. I know a lot of people been throwing out like a Matthew Stafford trade comparison, but it seems like maybe a little bit more of a Brett Favre trade comparison when the Packers traded him to the Jets. Mm-hmm. 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 Peter King, NBC Sports, joining us here this morning. A lot of debate last week, especially on Twitter and social media, is who holds leverage in this situation. In your opinion, who do you think holds the leverage? Is it the Packers or the Jets? Mm-hmm. 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 I was going to ask you about this next question and kind of listening to you talk about, his appearances on Pat McAfee. And that was kind of something I was wondering here too. But, ever since this offseason has started from our listeners, and it seems like this is the case all over the fan base, there's a slight majority that want Rodgers out of Green Bay, that they want to move on from him, which to me is different than what it was in 2008, where, in that summer you had people flying airplanes with banners, creating websites to bring Favre back and that. It seems like it's a different feel this year. And is it just because people are exhausted from Aaron Rodgers? And a lot of it maybe is because we hear from him, once a week, every week throughout the season. Mm-hmm. 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 One question a lot of our listeners have had the last couple weeks, and I really don't know the answer to this, and I don't know if you would have any insight, but why did Green Bay do that new deal a year ago with him with 3 years and with all that money? If they're so eager to move on from him this year, do you have a sense why they agreed to that new contract just a year ago? Mm-hmm. 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 Peter, before I let you go, with free agency already go, weekend, and so was there any move that or any signing that kind of surprised you the most or you liked the most so far in this offseason? Mm-hmm. Do you think Lamar Jackson gets an offer sheet from any other team besides the Ravens signing him? Mm-hmm. Peter, always thank you for coming on. I gotta tell you really quick. When I told Hudson that I was going to be talking to you again, his response was, "Does that mean we can go out for ice cream again?" So just throwing, had to tell you that. Well, hey, we'll make the trip to Green Bay too if that's easier for you. So big thanks for doing that, and he still kind of talks about that too with his friends at school. So thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. You too. There you go. There's Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBC Sports. Big thanks for Peter hopping on here this morning and talking obviously a lot about Aaron Rodgers, a little bit there with NFL free agency and such. So, all right, there you got it. I want to ask you, Packers fans. So, I kind of threw that out to Peter. I mentioned it in the first hour. For those of you who are like, maybe not necessarily for those of you like that, but do you think for a big reason why so many Packers fans are ready to move on from Rodgers is just because he's on Pat McAfee once a week and because he's, always saying something, you're just kind of like holding your breath and waiting to see if he's going to like drop a bomb and say something that's just going to be a talking point. You're kind of done. You're kind of annoyed with it or what do you got? So let me know. Hit me up with a text. Okay. 715-830-1912. We're going to take a quick break. Don't forget, give me your Badger Mount Rushmore, your Badger Mount Rushmore. Is Mark Johnson on there? And if not, who do you have? Let me know. Okay. Let's take a quick break. We'll throw a little baseball talk in here too. World Baseball Classic. Anybody following that? Anybody paying attention to it?
You're listening to the Dan Kasper Show.
Get ready to save with half-off deals. A great way for you to get goods and services that you will love and you don't have to pay full price. Be sure to check out all the great savings that half-off deals have to offer. There's something for everyone, so be sure to see for yourself. Be ready with your credit or debit card and get ready to save. For more details and to find out about all the savings, just go to aroundthe715.com.
Feeling sore from all that snow shoveling we've been doing this winter? Got some aches and pains from lifting all that snow scoop by scoop? Well, we can't stop the snow from coming, but it is possible to help alleviate that pain with the help from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. The fantastic team from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine can help reduce your pain and enjoy the ease of your daily activities. You can request an appointment today by visiting cvosm.com. We are now at the point in time where we are just itching for spring and summer to get here. We're getting teased with some warmer temperatures here and there, but remember, it's Wisconsin. We should know better. We do this every year. But this is also a good reminder that, hey, it's a good time to start thinking about getting your vehicle ready for the spring and summer. Or maybe it's getting close to that time and picking back up your summer vehicle restoration project so you can get ready to hit up the car shows. Whether you're needing to get your vehicle ready for some road trips or car shows, ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire is ready to help you get ready. Need some new tires, batteries, or a quick oil change? ASAP Used Auto Parts has that all covered for you. And about those hard to find, high quality used auto parts to either help you save some money on a repair job or for that restoration project, ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you find that part that you're looking for. And hey, don't forget, they also offer a military discount. The amazing customer service at ASAP Used Auto Parts wants to help you with your auto needs. So stop on by at 1330 Menominee Street in Eau Claire and just visit their website at ASAPUsedAutoPartsEC.com. Any plans on what you're doing with your tax return this year? Maybe paying off some bills or expenses. That's reasonable. But what else is reasonable is making sure you also treat yourself once in a while. Can I make a helpful suggestion? How about heading to Tilden Gun and finally upgrading that deer rifle or turkey shotgun of yours? Because really, when was that last time you updated that hunting firearm of yours? So save a little bit of money from those tax returns this year and head on over to the locally owned and family operated Tilden Gun. They'll help you find that hunting firearm you're looking for. And the best part is that you won't have to use all of your tax return money because Tilden Gun has the best prices and deals in the area. Whether you are looking for a new firearm or want to check out some used firearms, Tilden Gun has a wide selection to choose from and no pushy salespeople to get you to get something you don't want. Experience it for yourself. Just visit tildengun.com and visit their shop at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. Tax season just got better because you are treating yourself with a new hunting firearm from Tilden Gun.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers train to keep the power flowing, engines running, and in every other trade needed to accomplish the mission. These soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession by visiting NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
The finalists are here. It's time to vote on your favorite new brat and snack stick flavor from Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire to decide which one will be the new Dan Kasper brat. The finalists for the brats are dill pickle, cheddar and bacon, jalapeno and bacon, and a taco flavored brat. Snack sticks are pizza and Parmesan garlic. So head on over to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire at 2238 Heimstead Road. Purchase some brats and snack sticks, taste test them, and then head to sportstalk1051.com to tell us which flavor is your favorite. The reviews are in. It's the best thing I have ever tasted in my life. This is the best thing that's happened in my life, even better than my wedding. That's what everyone has to say about Man Cave Light, the official beer of the Dan Kasper Show and the Man Cave podcast. Try it for yourself and you will know exactly why people say it's like sipping a little bit of heaven. Man Cave Light is available on tap at the bar in Hy-Vee. You can also grab a crawler or 6 and take some Man Cave Light home with you. So go try your new favorite beer, Man Cave Light, today, and you will know exactly why one reviewer said, I cry tears of joy every time I have one.
The latest sports news, scores, opinion, and commentary. If that's not enough, you should seek professional help. The Dan Kasper Show.
All right, big thanks again to Peter King for joining us this morning. If you missed the conversation or missed parts of it, we'll put it up on our podcast shortly after we shut the mics off here this morning. So again, big thanks to Peter over there for taking some time. Let's move on here a little bit, and got a few texts we're catching up on the World Baseball Classic. Looks like a good group of you are watching and you are enjoying the games so far. And that's the thing. Like, I know we asked, or at least I asked about it at the beginning of the World Baseball Classic. Is that something you pay attention to? Is it something that you follow? And the majority of you are like, not really. You know, maybe kind of casually, looking off from the sidelines and checking it out and that sort of thing. But I got to tell you right now, it's been pretty darn entertaining, I think. Team USA is one win away from becoming back-to-back World Baseball Classic champions. They beat Cuba 14-2. They will face the winner of the Mexico-Japan semifinals game, which is on tonight at 6 p.m. So, I found it very entertaining so far. I've really enjoyed it. The parts I've been able to follow and watch and such. It's been cool. I don't know if anybody kind of saw some of the clips on social media too. If you're a Junior fan, Ken Griffey Jr. fan, you probably saw him doing a little BP work in the cage, and the guys were getting all jacked up and pumped up because it looked like he was hitting some dingers over there. And you got to kind of realize too, a lot of those guys on that team are probably grew up having Ken Griffey Jr. as their favorite player. Trey Turner's been just tattooing the ball. He became the second player in Team USA history to connect for a multi-home run game, joining his hitting coach, Ken Griffey Jr. How about that? Trey Turner said afterwards, after finding that out, I don't know if he knows that. I didn't know that, but I can't wait to have that conversation with him in the cage tomorrow. It's going to be a fun one for me. 4 home runs, most by a Team USA player in a single World Baseball Classic. Man. But yeah, I've been really enjoying it. I have been really enjoying it. Next week is opening day for the Brew Crew. And I know we talked about Voigt's last week for Thursday with Brandon because Brandon was in on Thursday, and they had that deadline, that opt-out deadline. Sounds like the Brewers and Voigt agreed to extend it because Voigt really wants to play for the Brewers, but the Brewers are trying to figure out their options. You know, they want to have some roster flexibility, it seems like. But looking at Adam McCulvey's latest Brewers opening day roster projection, William Contreras, Victor Caratini at catcher, no big surprise. He does have Luke Voigt making it. Rowdy Tellez been doing some things with Team Mexico this year too. Luis Urias coming in at second, Willie Adames at short, Brian Anderson coming in at third base, outfielders Christian Yelich, Garrett Mitchell, Tyler Naquan, Jesse Winker as your DH, and then Owen Miller, Mike Brasso as your utility players, which means no Castanera. And Castanera is out of minor league options. So, and again, he hasn't, been putting out there a big time, eye-popping numbers and such, but it might just be one of those times for Keston. He go to a different franchise, maybe resurrect his career there a little bit. Starting pitchers, no big surprises on Adam McCulvey's prediction. Corbin, Brandon, Freddie, Eric Lauer, Wade Miley. Says Adrian Hauser has a minor leg issue and is probably headed for the bullpen anyways. Those relief pitchers, Devin Williams, Matt Bush, Milner. So no big surprises on there. But I think when you're kind of looking at this, the big question will be, does Voigt make the opening day roster? Does he make that opening day roster? And I think right now, it's trending that way. I mean, the guy is playing incredibly well, right? And this team needs the bats. They need as many good bats as they possibly can. So I hope they keep him. I hope they can find a spot for him on this roster and get him in the lineup at times and really utilize that bat. And hopefully that bat stays hot too. That's the other thing. Hopefully that bat stays hot so far. If you're into, kind of some spring training numbers here, Mike Brasso, who we talked about last week too, has been hitting the ball really well. He's got 4 home runs, 10 RBIs for the Brew Crew this year, 417 average in 24 at-bats. Garrett Mitchell, we were talking about him last week too, 3 home runs, 333 and 18 at-bats. Dealt a little bit with that hamstring issue. Rowdy Tellez, when he was with the ball club before leaving to go for Team Mexico for the World Baseball Classic, he was also showing off the long ball, 3 home runs, 417. Brian Anderson, 393 and 28 at-bats. We were talking about Luke Voigt, 32 at-bats. They've been giving him plenty of at-bats. 32 at-bats, 344 batting average. When you look at it for the entire team, Bryce Terang and Voigt have the most at-bats this spring for the Brewers. Bryce Terang's not having a bad spring either, showing off his 313 average. But, yeah, it sure looks like I would put him on there. I don't know if Craig Counsellor and the Brewers and Matt Arnold would listen to me, but I would put him on there. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, we got a couple more Mount Rushmore Badger sports people out there. Surveyor going Barry, Mark Johnson, Bo Ryan, Ron Dane. That seems to be the most popular one right now. We got another one out here. Don't know your name. If you want a name with your text, just let me know. But it's the same exact 4. We have Adam, who went with Barry, Bo Ryan, Ron Dane, and Pat Richter. Okay. There's no right or wrong answer in this. So I'm just kind of right now, if we, at the end of the program, if it trends this way, it sure looks like the 4 Badgers that if they were to put a Mount Rushmore in Madison with the 4 Badger athletic people, sports people, and again, you could put coaches, front office, administration. Heck, you want to put Matt LePay on that thing? Because I'd put Bob Uecker on a Brewers one. But right now it's trending that it will be Barry, it'll be Mark Johnson, it'll be Bo Ryan, and it'll be Ron Dane. Ron Dane. I think Ron Dane has been on every one of ours so far. I think so. So a lot of love for the great Dane. Anybody else? Give me your votes because we're going to create that. I put it up on Facebook and Twitter if you want, or you can send it over to me in an email if you want to. So I should have put that on our little morning email. Maybe I'll do that later this morning. I'll do that later this morning, I think. I know I didn't send one out early, kind of trying to catch up from the weekend and such. So I will do that actually maybe in our commercial break or at the top of the hour here. So, but give me your top 4 Badger athletic sports people. So, okay. Also, if you had to redo your final 4, who do you got? We got a few texts I have to catch up with. Houston, Alabama, UConn. And what's the okay? There's only 3 in that text, so somebody forgot. Again, I don't know who this texter is. If you want your name on there, you gotta let me know. But they only got 3 on there, so I guess in their final 4, it's Houston, Alabama, and UConn. All right, don't matter about the other one. Doesn't matter about the other one. Another one here. We've got Texas, Alabama, Michigan State. Ooh, interesting. And Gonzaga. Okay. Haven't seen that one before. We got a Tennessee, Alabama, Houston, Gonzaga. We got a Xavier. I'm going to go with Sean Miller's group over there. Xavier, Alabama. A lot of people, I think everybody's going to Alabama now. So Xavier, Alabama, Tennessee, UConn. I can see that one too. Okay, that texter said that it's supposed to be Tennessee and they forgot to put it in there. Okay, yep. So if you could redo your final 4, who would it be? I still got my final 4 left. But if I had to put one out or take one out and switch it, I might put UConn in over UCLA and Tennessee over Kansas State. Those would be my only 2. But I'm still alive. I'm feeling good. Got my final 4 teams left. It was a rough first couple rounds for me. Rough, first few days here. I'm sitting 7th, I think, 9th. Don't matter. But I got my final 4 teams here. Let's roll. Come on, baby. All right. Let's take a break and we'll finish up the second hour, okay? We got more texts coming in about the Badger Mount Rushmore. Keep those babies coming, all right? Curious to get your thoughts on that. Keep them coming, baby. Quick break. We'll be back after these few words.
Got a take on today's topics but can't call in? Then hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or the text line and let your fingers do the talking.
Who doesn't love cooking up a good burger on the grill? Having a good burger is one of the most satisfying moments in your life. And now we have the perfect burger to put on the grill and create more satisfying moments in your life. It's the Dan Good Burger, available only at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. This burger has bacon, cheese, and ranch seasoning all inside the patty to give you that perfect balance of taste and awesomeness in each bite. So head on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire and grab yourself a few Dan Good Burgers and fire up that grill.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs.
I never really thought about tools until I bought a house in the suburbs. It's like this weird homeowner test if I need a tool for a project and don't have it. And my neighbor Ted loves to give me that look when I ask to borrow a pole saw. A year ago, I didn't even know pole saws existed. And now I gotta borrow one from Ted? What is happening?
Anyway, when you save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto, that's the easy part of adjusting to the suburbs. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
ECCT proudly presents Little Women the Musical at the Jamf Theater at the Pablo Center, March 31st through April 2nd. Based on Louisa May Alcott's life, Little Women follows the adventures of sisters Jo, Meg, Beth, and Amy March. This timeless, captivating story is brought to life in this glorious musical filled with personal discovery, heartache, hope, and everlasting love. To get your tickets, go to pablocenter.org.
Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially since you're always growing and changing. But deepening your self-awareness is the key to a happier, more fulfilled life. Therapy is all about that process of self-discovery, because sometimes you don't know what you really want until you talk things through. BetterHelp offers convenient online therapy on your schedule. It's the same professional service you'd get from an in-person therapist, but with the option to communicate when and how you want, by chat, phone, or video call. Plus, getting started is easy. Just go to their site and fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. If you don't find the right match the first time, don't worry. You can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Start on your own journey of self-discovery with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/growth today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/growth.
What's for dinner tonight? Craving a good brat? Maybe some chicken? Or how about the freshest and the finest beef in the Chippewa Valley? Making you hungry now, aren't we? We'll feed those cravings by heading over to Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Whether you are in the mood for steak, a burger, or pork, Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire is the only hometown meat market. Plus, they offer custom venison and other wild game processing. So what are you waiting for? Visit Mike's Star Market at 2238 Heimstead Road and grab dinner for tonight and tomorrow while you're at it. Are you looking to purchase a new vehicle with that tax return this year? Hey, it sounds like you need to make a quick stop to Toyson Ford. From the moment you step into their showroom, you're more than just a customer. You're an honored guest. Toyson Ford's only aim is to serve your needs to the fullest, and the team at Toyson Ford will go the extra mile to provide you with compelling options for new and used vehicle shopping. Purchasing a vehicle, that can be a big decision, and Toyson Ford knows that. So make it easier with the help from Toyson Ford.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-208-1312 for a free consultation. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now. 800-208-1312. Call now.
I'd like to get real with you for a moment. All across the country and even in our town, there are people who have to go without. Perhaps even you, having to go without being able to hear parts of the Dan Kasper Show. It's tragic, but there is help. You can listen to segments from Dan's show and new content on the Man Cave podcast. Check it out for yourself on your favorite podcasting platform.
April 7th is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be over at Hy-Vee doing a show. It's Friday, April 7th. But we'll be there. And then big thanks to our amazing friends at Carpet City Flooring Center because they're putting together a putting challenge for us. Masters Weekend, Masters Friday. So we're going to have a little putting contest over there. And because they're so flipping awesome over there at Carpet City Flooring Center, they are going to be giving away a Odyssey putter, a Callaway driver to the winners on this. Everybody who attempts a putt, you're going to get 3 putts, all right? Everybody who attempts a putt is going to at least get a ticket. But if you nail your putts, you make them, you're going to get more tickets, obviously. And then you'll be put in the drawing to win this Odyssey putter or the Callaway driver. I'm going to run over there sometime this week and maybe test out that putter or something like that. But they're putting together this putting green for us too, which I cannot wait to see. But it's going to be a lot of fun on April 7th. I know Hy-Vee is going to be putting together a Masters menu too. We're going to be doing that live show there in the morning. So stop on by on your way to work really quick. Try a couple putts. If you want to bring your putter, surveyor, if you're like a left-handed person, you might want to bring your own putter because I'll have mine, but I'm a righty. And if you don't want, I don't want to hear the excuses. Well, if I have my putter, bring your putter with if you want. Okay, I'll have mine. If you want to use it, you can. Anybody wondering? It's an Odyssey single blade. So if you're a 2-ball, 3-ball type of putter, mallet, whatever, you have to bring your own. But I'll have mine there on hand. So, but that's going to be a lot of fun. April 7th. So stop on by on your way to work. Maybe you have the day off. Who knows? But we'll be there in the morning and partake in our putting challenge for your chance to win a pretty sweet Odyssey putter. I have wanted a upgrade in putter for a while now, so I'll have to find out if I'm eligible for this or not. I know I'm not, but I'd like to think that I am. So, and then if you're looking for a new driver, Callaway driver, got that on hand too. Plus, I think we're going to be giving away a free team for the Casper Classic as well. Going to be a lot of fun. All right, we got some more picks for the Badger Mount Rushmore. Some different picks over here. Joe Thomas, this is from Chuck. Joe Thomas, Susie Favor Hamilton, Barry Alvarez, Mark Johnson, Michael Finley, Ron Dane, Alan Amici, all close to. Alvarez, Ryan, Jimmy Leonard, Dane. Honorable mention, Mark Johnson. That's from Seth. I think that's the first pick we've had for Jimmy Leonard from everybody out there. So, will we have more now? Keep them coming. But again, the majority, I will say, Barry's going to be on there from a lot of you. Ron Dane's going to be on there. Probably the second most voted person. And then maybe Bo Ryan. And I think it's trending towards Mark Johnson is going to be at number 4. But easily, I would say the top 2 is Barry and Ron Dane, and then maybe a little bit closer from the other 2. Still got an hour to send over your votes. Again, you can tweet it, text it. I got to send that email. I'll do it at the top of the hour during the news breaks there. Quick update, too, on some more Final Four picks. Joe, he is going to ride with Houston, Alabama, UCLA, and Tennessee. Nick looks like he's going to go with Texas, Alabama. Again, I think everybody's picked Alabama. Texas, Alabama, Zags, and Kansas State. Aaron's going to go with Alabama, Xavier, UConn, and Tennessee. All right. If you got a chance to redo it, what would you do? You can let me know. We'll get back to more of those coming up a little bit later on. Really quick, we mentioned it in the first hour, but to finish off the second hour, Bucks picking up the win last night against the Toronto Raptors. They are still 2.5 games up on the Eastern Conference standings for first place, but it's getting more interesting because Philadelphia is now by the slightest of edges in terms of win percent in second place in the Eastern Conference. They're hot right now. 9-1 in the last 10. They've won their last 8 games in a row. They're both, Philadelphia and Boston, both 2.5 back from Milwaukee, but Philadelphia holding on because of that win percentage to that second spot right now. So things are getting really interesting between the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. No offense to Cleveland, who's 7 back of the Milwaukee Bucks right now, but I feel like this is just going to be a race to the finish for this one spot between these 3 teams. Just 11 more regular season games left to go for the Bucks here. They've got today and tomorrow off before they take on the Spurs at home. And a little bit of a road trip here. Utah, Denver, that should be a great game on Saturday, assuming all the major players play in that one. Then Detroit, and then Indiana. So they'll be on the road for the next 4. But we're looking at next Thursday. I don't know, you guys. I mean, it's next Thursday, which is opening day. But you got Bucks, Celtics in Milwaukee. Depending on how these games kind of play up to that point, that could be a huge game. And then, right after that, on April 2nd, they're at home against Philly. So they'll have Boston and Philly back-to-back with a couple days rest in there. But all at home, too, in Milwaukee. And then after that, they'll have 4 more games to finish off the regular season. But you look at those 2 games, Boston and Philly in Milwaukee, depending on how these games leading up to it, that could be some very, very crucial, critical games in terms of the Bucks trying to hold on to that number 1 spot in the East. Philly is playing really well as of late. We know Boston's a good team. I know they're 5-5 in the last 10, but let's not kid ourselves. Bucks, good team. These are the three that I think you can make the case that either one of these three can represent the conference in the NBA Finals. No offense to Cleveland, the Knicks, Brooklyn, Miami, or anything like that. But I think these are going to be the three. One of these three teams is going to represent the East. And there's a really, really good shot. Two of these three teams are going to face each other in the second round and kind of beat up on each other and maybe kind of wear down one another while the other team waits to face that opponent in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's going to get a little interesting coming down here to stretch. I don't know. Maybe the Bucks won't be able to, let's say come April 4th, where they got a game against Washington, or April 5th, home game against Chicago. Depending on how everything plays out in these final few weeks here, how much will they be able to actually kind of, quote, load management some of these players and make sure that they're ready for the playoffs and get ready for the playoffs? If they still got to clinch that one spot, it might come down to that final game against Toronto on the road, April 9th. Might very well. Western Conference, I mean, it sure looks like it's Denver's to be the number 1 seed at this point. They've already clinched their division. Milwaukee, for what it's worth, hasn't clinched their division yet, but they've clinched a playoff spot. Sacramento and Memphis both tied up there for that second spot. Phoenix sitting there at 4, but again, I think we all know Phoenix is such a wild card. They're going to be such a wild card when it comes to the postseason. And it's because of the KD factor when he's healthy and such, and they're all on the court together. Because right now, if the playoffs were to start right now, if the playoffs were to start right now, would be Phoenix versus the Clippers. And the Clippers were like a hot team preseason, people picking them to win the finals or go to the finals. And right now it would be, you're talking like Kawhi Leonard and KD, PG-13 Paul George, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook versus KD, first round of the playoffs. But you got Dallas sitting there at that 6th spot too. They're just holding on to that final spot before the play-in ones, and Golden State's just a half game back from them too. Timberwolves, right now, if you're a T-Wolves fan, you're sitting in there you're at the 9th spot, so you are still in that play-in tournament. But given how everything's kind of like mumble-jumbled with this Western Conference through these teams, so Phoenix is in the 4th spot. They're 38-33, but the Timberwolves are 35-37, so they're just a few games back from like a 4th spot. Point being, they're not that far out from being in the top 6, which I think a lot of these teams, they kind of want to try to avoid being in that play-in tournament. Minnesota being one of them, they can inch into that 6th spot. Looks like they're just, a game and a half back from Dallas. And then you've got the Lakers, who are sitting now at the 10th spot for that play-in tournament. They hold, Lakers are 35-37, Utah is 34-36, both at a 486 win percentage. So, and then Pelicans just half game back. A lot to be decided in this final couple weeks here of the NBA season. So, all right, shot clock's gonna cut me off here. So coming up next hour, we'll get back to some more of your picks for the Mount Rushmore of Wisconsin Badger sports figures. If you could redo your Final Four, what would it be? Maybe we'll throw a little bit more football talk in there. What would your reaction be if the Packers only got a 2nd-round pick for Aaron Rodgers, but in 2025 they would get a 3rd-rounder if he doesn't play and a 1st-rounder if he does play in 2025? What would your reaction be like to that deal? Let me know. We'll hit that up.
WAYY Eau Claire, W286CK Eau Claire, Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. From the 715 Newsroom, it's Morgan McCarthy with your news on Sports Talk 105.1.
Good morning. Well, here's what we're learning today. Coming out of a weekend, plugging into a new week, we begin locally and in the courts with a plea deal that could mean 26 years in prison for a former Eau Claire man. This is from a 2020 overdose death. 715 Newsroom coverage with John DeMaster.
Trenton Wick pleaded guilty Friday to first-degree reckless homicide by delivering drugs. This comes after police found a man dead in a car on Cochrane Street back in December of 2020. Wick gave the man who died the drugs that killed him. He also pleaded guilty for a jailhouse fight in 2021 that injured another inmate. I'm John DeMaster.
Meanwhile, still following details, you may have heard sirens last night as crews were called to Banbury Place downtown. It was about 9:30 when that call came in for a fire, smoke seen coming out of the roof of the building. And I'm looking for some more answers later today. You can see the press release online, 715newsroom.com. Looking closer to campus, UW System President Jay Rothman says keeping a decade-long tuition freeze in place is unsustainable, but they also want to make sure that the bucks are affordable when it comes to being part of Bucky.
We just have to make an adjustment so that we can continue as well to meet that ultimate goal of delivering the highest quality education, a world-class education to our students.
If you have potential students in your family, just know that later this month, they'll be going to the UW Board of Regents looking for a 5% tuition increase this fall at UW schools. Let's back to the table for number 4. Mississippi's Department of Human Services wants a judge to keep Brett Favre as part of their lawsuit to recover misspent welfare dollars. DHS lawyers in Jackson, Mississippi last week said the judge should not allow Favre to walk away from the case as he's never been charged with a crime, but they say there's evidence that links him to a scheme to misspend millions of dollars that were supposed to go to families. Favre's lawyers say the state is using his status as a celebrity to distract from the real culprits in the case. Looking in some other headlines, if you're interested in hearing what candidates have to say, the one and only debate that both will appear for Wisconsin's record-breaking Supreme Court races tomorrow. Liberal Judge Janet Protasiewicz finally alongside conservative Justice Dan Kelly for a debate hosted by the State Bar of Wisconsin and a Madison TV station. That is set for tomorrow at 12:45 in the afternoon, and we'll keep details online with a click at 715newsroom.com. And how about your brackets? If they're all busted up and you just can't down another pint, how about a beer popsicle?
In celebration of March Madness, you know, the big basketball month, Coors Light, the makers of beer, have a very special limited run beer flavored popsicle. It's non-alcoholic and they say it tastes like real beer. It'll come in a tube like an Otter Pop and it'll be available only for a limited time and only during March Madness. I'm Bree Tennis, NBC News Radio.
You know, that's so funny. I saw Casper's plans for new items coming this summer, and he's going to try this with the Man Cave Light at Wahlburger. He wants to make it
very special limited run beer flavored popsicle.
For Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Morgan McCarthy.
Starting off the morning on a mild note, but we'll dip into the mid-20s by the mid-morning hours with some intervals of clouds and sun on tap for today. Starting off spring on a quiet note, temperatures climbing to the low 40s, and later tonight a few clouds hang around as we dip into the upper 20s once again. A few chances at some precipitation tomorrow could be of the mixed variety going into the afternoon, otherwise mostly cloudy and highs climbing to the upper 30s. I'm Skywarn 13 meteorologist Mike D'Andrea.
Who doesn't love Hy-Vee? Once you walk in the store, you're in for quite the shopping experience. So grab yourself a coffee and check out everything Hy-Vee has to offer. From their top-of-the-line produce section, A-plus bakery, a deli department that includes so many different cheeses you didn't even know existed, a superb meat department, and even shoes. Plus the best wine and spirits department in the area. And once you're done shopping or need to grab a bite to eat, they have many different options in their food court, including the popular Wahlburgers. Experience the Hy-Vee experience yourself today.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Let me ask you something. Did you name your firstborn after a football player?
Hell yeah.
Did you spend your honeymoon going to a football game?
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Do you spend most of your free time hanging out in your man cave?
Yes!
If you answered yes to all the above, then you, my friend, are a serious sports fan just like Dan.
Yes!
This is exactly where you belong. Sports talking and BSing is what we do best.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
So rise and grind, people. because the Dan Kasper Show is on the air.
You serious, Clark?
Right now. Showtime!
All right, man. Mike wasn't working right away there. So third hour kicking off right now. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Appreciate you tuning in. However, and wherever you may be checking in from this fine Monday morning of March 20th. Is it first day of spring, I think? Let's start to feel it. Coming up this hour, we're going to get to a little MMQB, a little Monday morning quarterbacking. We've got some Motivational Monday coming at you, too. We're going to get to studs and duds here in just a second. Shout out to the Honorable Travis from A-Town. Good interview with Mr. Kang. It's nice to hear the opinions of such a respected insider who can offer a neutral perspective on our team. Keep up the good work. Appreciate that, Honorable Travis from A-Town. Big thanks. And big thanks again to NFL Insider, Football Morning in America, Peter King, for joining us. If you missed that conversation, I'll put it up in our podcast after we shut off the mics here this morning. All right, let's do it. Let's do some studs and duds. You want to play along? You could send me your studs and duds at that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, 830-1912. Had a brain fart there for a second. My studs, I'm going Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. We were talking about that, was it last hour? They're going to the championship, waiting to see who they're going to be playing. But Team USA, I'm going with them as my studs right now. My duds, I am going to go with Kansas and Purdue. Purdue losing in the first round. Kansas losing in the second round. Now, I know Kansas, Bill Self wasn't on the sidelines and such, but, that was kind of like one of my things we were talking about before the brackets, before March Madness started and all that. And, like, do you have your certain rules, or is there certain things teams you get nervous about picking? And Kansas was always, I brought them up. Like, I always get nervous whenever I pick Kansas to go far in a tournament. And lo and behold, there you go. So Kansas, Purdue losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Duds. My complete duds right there. I forgot to mention my studs also too. Boys basketball state tournament locally here. Shout out Chippewa Falls McDonald getting second place there. But I know we reach a lot more than just the Chippewa Valley. So studs, all the teams competing at the state tournament. Congratulations, and congratulations to those teams who are bringing back some hardware there too. So easy ones there. Okay, let's do my motivational Monday, because since we were just talking about a little college hoops there. My motivational Monday. How do you not get, if you're a smaller school, or you're a school that people just kind of wrote you off, don't give you a shot, don't even know who the heck you are when it comes to the tournament, and then you pull off a big time upset, that's pretty motivating, right? That's pretty darn cool. Obviously, I think the big one is Fal Dickinson. I like saying that name. Probably everybody saw the pictures of their gymnasium compared to Purdue, because everybody is doing that on social media, comparing the enrollments and their rankings and that sort of thing. But it's pretty darn motivating to see a team like Fal Dickinson beating Purdue. They did lose to FAU, a 9th seed, yesterday, 78-70. But you got a 15 seed Princeton into the Sweet 16. And then, you're familiar with Arkansas and the Michigan States and all that. But that's one thing I love about the NCAA tournament. my bracket's always going to be busted every single year. So if I happen to do well in a bracket challenge, that's just an extra cherry on top of everything. But motivating stuff, yeah, it's easily seeing these smaller schools or these schools that we never even heard of, never even don't know anything about, and they go out there and they win a big time game and they win a big time upset. I would love to do a bracket challenge of like all the biggest Cinderella stories or the biggest upsets, like the teams that won it. So like this year, I know they only won one game. They didn't go on that magical run. What was the team last year? I'm just blanking off the top of my head. I know I just mentioned them Friday too, but Fair Dickinson, putting those teams, the George Masons, putting them all in a bracket challenge and like who would be the best of all the Cinderellas. You know what I mean? Like you have to be maybe like a 13 seed, a 12 seed and lower. It's got to be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. But no, it's pretty cool. That's got to be motivating for that program. That's got to be motivating for those kids. That's got to be motivating for the student body, parents, all the above. All the above. So, all right, that's my Motivational Monday. Those are my studs and duds. If you want, you can hit us up and make your picks if you want to play along a little bit with studs and duds. So we'll get back to some more Mount Rushmore picks for the Badgers. A lot of, I would say the clear majority would be Ron Dane, Barry Alvarez, Bo Ryan, and Mark Johnson. Bo Ryan and Mark Johnson are probably third and fourth, but Barry Alvarez and Ron Dane easily the top two on there. So, but that's where a lot of people are voting for this thing right now. Mark Johnson with his 7 national championships after the women's hockey team capturing another one yesterday, defeating Ohio State. Okay, so we had Peter King on just last hour, and in his column that dropped this morning, he talked about trade compensation for one Aaron Charles Rodgers. So I'll ask you, Packers fans, if this was the trade scenario that Peter laid out that he believes is a fair trade for both sides, it would be the Jets' second-round pick this year, which is 43 overall. And then if Aaron does play in 2024 for the Jets, and he plays over 100 snaps, which is like a couple games, 2-3 games, you would get the 2025 first-round pick. If he doesn't play those 100 snaps, you get a third-round pick in 2025 from the Jets. So essentially, you're getting a second-round pick this year and then either a first or a third-round pick in 2025, nothing in 2024. You as a Packers fan, I'll admit it, I would love their 13th overall pick. Love it. Hell, give me 2 first-round picks. But trying to be a little realistic in this thing, probably not going to happen. And I thought Peter made a great point when we had him on. And he said the one line or the comment that Aaron said to Pat McAfee that probably, is probably the biggest sticking point in this whole thing is where he said he was 90% sure he was going to retire before he went into darkness. He was 90% sure that he was going to retire. So that's where I can understand the Jets being apprehensive and giving up the 13th overall pick for a quarterback that they might only have for 1 year. Now, if Aaron goes out there and says, I guarantee you 2 years, the other thing is like, do you trust him? Do you trust him that he's going to stick to his word there? And I know you got to put in some other comp. You probably could word it conditional picks and that sort of thing. But I I think that scenario, I can see where the Jets don't want to give up their 13th overall pick for a guy they may only have 1 year. They don't see that as good business. Whereas the Packers, they view it as like a team that holds the cards right now. They know the Jets are desperate. They know there's nobody else out there. So they're asking for a little bit higher. Maybe a player can be involved in this. Maybe like an Elijah Moore can be involved in this. I don't know. But I know in Peter's column too, and he mentioned it with us, he feels like it'll be probably done in a couple weeks, but get really nervous if like a week before the draft and it's not done. And in his column, I think he mentioned April 7th is his prediction for a date if we were throwing out a prediction. Hey, when do you think the trade's going to be done? He threw out April 7th, which, hey, if we're doing our live remote show for the Masters there, we'll be talking golf and talking trades. But I think at this point, a second rounder, as much as I really, really, really want a first rounder, I get it why it won't be a first rounder. I get it. I understand it. If this was a couple years ago, yeah, you're probably easily getting a first rounder. But I get it. And I feel like a lot of Packers fans will probably be a little bit upset that they will probably be a little disappointed that they didn't get a first round pick for Aaron. For as much as they kind of want him out of town, they'll be upset that they didn't get enough for him. But I think that second round pick is probably where it's going to be at. And then the conditional 2025. And I know some people are probably thinking, why wouldn't it be 2024? And maybe it could be. Or maybe there's just the assumption that he might do the Favre impression and not decide until after the draft. Or way too far in the process. I don't know. But we shall find out. And the other thing I kind of threw out there too, if you are as a Packers fan, and Peter brought it up in our interview too, and I had seen this, but like Randy Mueller, a former general manager in the NFL, you know, one of the quotes he had in a podcast he just did, I think it was the NFL GM podcast with Mike Sando. You know, Packers probably, you know, one of the things, they just got tired of the circus. You know, the three ring circus, if you will, with Aaron once a week going on Pat McAfee, and you're just kind of holding your breath to see what he's going to say and try to figure out what the heck does that comment mean. And then that's kind of the talking point all week. And I could see where teams don't want to deal with that. Not a lot might not want to deal with that. New York might be a little bit different market because they're always, you know, into the, you know, they've always got interesting media coverage and such. But it's interesting. I guess it's still interesting to me to see the reaction from a lot of Packers fans so eager to get Aaron Rodgers out of town. And I wonder if it's just because simply for that same reason where maybe some teams are not in on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes because they don't want that three-ring circus that comes with it. The exact quote from Randy Mueller was, I think it's all the other three-ring circus that comes with it. Nobody wants to put their organization on blast every Tuesday for a podcast. And that's really what the Packers have been. Podcast obviously referring to Pat McAfee Show. And I wonder if that's why there's a good chunk of the fan base out there saying the same thing. You know, we've wanted for so long to see the personal side, to see the inside of these players, and we're coaches and, you know, general managers. And we always kind of chuckle or just kind of, you know, whenever a coach or general manager does speak, we always have this, yeah, we're not going to really learn anything though. They're talking, but they're not saying anything. The typical coach speak, the typical general manager speak. But when a player does open it up, and that's where I feel like we're Aaron in this case, he did open up that door to a little bit of the inside of the life of Aaron Rodgers. He opened that up. We went through it, or we peeked into it, and a lot of Packers fans didn't like it. They shut that door. Like, nope, don't like it. Nope, nope, don't want it. We don't want what's behind door number one. And I think that's kind of where a lot of fans are at this point. A little bit different than 08, that's for sure. And a lot of it, I think, is because of the spark of social media. All right, we got to take a quick break, and then coming up, we'll get back to more of your picks for the Mount Rushmore. But kind of where this all started was this question: do you think Mark Johnson gets overlooked a little bit from Badger fans and Badgers history? Do you think he kind of gets overlooked? Because I think if we ask this question, I know we've asked it before, and he wasn't really a name that was up there. And I know it's maybe not fair to bring this up, recency effect, and they just won their 7th national championship. But maybe some people are actually like, holy cow, it's 7? The guy has 7 national championships? You're like, wait a minute. I knew there was a few, but I didn't know there were 7. You think he kind of gets overlooked a little bit in terms of Badgers lore? Barry's going to be on there. But shouldn't Mark Johnson be on there? What do you think? Let me know. And then if you had to repick your final 4 teams based off the madness that happened the last few days, what would they be? Approaching the bottom of the hour here. Let's catch up on a couple of more nominations. I agree with all these Mount Rushmore nominations, but Eric Hayden should be in the conversation. Nick from UWEC. Don't know if that's a UWEC student. Yeah, the speed skater who won 5 golds, 1980 Olympics. Absolutely. Kind of wonder if people kind of forget about him a little bit too, because, I mean, after that, kind of didn't hear from him, went to med school and that sort of thing. I remember he was on the top 50. Remember when ESPN back in the day did the 50 greatest athletes? He was on that list. But yeah, I feel like maybe especially a younger generation of Badger fans kind of forget about Eric. And it's not it was speed skating, so it's not football or basketball or hockey where a lot of people kind of, gravitate towards a little bit. But no doubt, you want to put him on there? I would not argue that one. Would not argue that at all. Not one bit. Let's go with a couple more I've not heard yet for Badger Mount Rushmore. Elroy, Crazy Legs Hirsch, and Bob Johnson, who won 3 men's hockey titles. There's a lot of good picks out there. And it's going to be hard to just do 4 at this point. That's a good problem to have, right? The other Carl going to the Packers says just a second alone would be fine at this point. Okay. Kind of curious where you would be at, Packers fans, because when that does happen, when that trade does become official, I kind of wonder what the reaction is going to be like from a good group of Packers fans, where if it's not what they expected, if it's not what they think it'll be, is there going to be a lot of disappointment? Is there going to be a lot of disappointment? Especially if it's not that first rounder. Are you going to be upset? Alan Lazard, in case, I know this happened on Friday, but Alan Lazard had his introductory presser with the Jets on it was Friday, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Friday, where answering questions from the media and such. But he said that the Packers didn't show any interest in bringing him back. Quote, they didn't seem like they were going to miss me too much. Also went on to say, it feels good. 12 is going to be my quarterback again. He's a big reason why I'm here today. I can't deny that. He stood on a table for me in training camp when I didn't deserve to make the roster. He called for me to be in the games, and he always believed in me. Take it for what it's worth. All right. Moving on. College hoops. How's your brackets looking, people? Shout out to Aaron and is it Kathy on our bracket challenge brought to you by Hy-Vee. In the top 2 spots right now, Aaron, number 1 alone. Is it Kathy, second place in there too? You can check out where you're at on the leaderboard. If you're not on that first page, you can type your name in and see where you're at. Tim was on there for the first couple of days alone by himself, but must have had a rough last couple of Saturday and Sunday, or at least a rough Sunday, because he's not on that first page, or he's on the first page, but he's not in the first place anymore. But when you're looking at the leaderboard, Aaron in first with 47, Kathy 46. We got Mike in third with 45, Tim 44. Tim's there 43, tied with Mike and Kent and Sandy and Sandra and Jeremy. So that's just the first page on there. Again, you can check where you're at. Just type your name in and it'll pop up there for you. Let me see. We're Brandon Berg. Ooh, Brandon down in 13th right now, man. Yikes. Doesn't matter, though, after the first couple rounds, right? Just be in position and then make your move. If you got your final 4 teams left, I think you're doing okay. I think you're doing okay right now. If you had to redo your final 4, who would you go? A few of you over here. We got Eric. He's picking Texas, Alabama. I swear everybody has picked Alabama, and I mean, I know why, but I don't think anybody has picked another team from that region. Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, the Zags. That's from Eric. Tom, he's going to go with Alabama, Houston, UCLA, Tennessee. Matt, we've got Alabama, Houston, Zags, Kansas State. All over the board, besides Alabama at this point. I've got my Final Four still intact. I went with Alabama, Houston, UCLA, and Kansas State. I've got all four, but if I had to make a change, I'm comfortable. I'm confident in Alabama. I shouldn't say confident because it is the NCAA tournament and anything can freaking happen when it comes to the NCAA tournament. But I'll go with Alabama. I'll stick with my Houston pick. I'm not 100% confident in that one. I think Miami potentially could give them a little bit of a fit, but I'll stick with them. I might switch out UCLA for UConn. I like the way UConn's playing right now. I'd probably put them in there. And then I've got Kansas State. That would probably be the next one where maybe I would switch it for Tennessee, but those would be the only ones I'd probably switch is either like Tennessee and Kansas State or UCLA and UConn. But I got all four. I'll ride with those. I'm happy with it. And hopefully after the games at the end of this week, that'll still be the Final Four. So we'll see. But the biggest surprise over the weekend, would it be Purdue? Would it be, Kansas? I mean, we saw some, and we kind of thought that there was going to be a lot of parity in this thing, right? That there was going to be some craziness into this, and we saw it. We saw it the first few days of the tournament. It started off with Virginia losing, Arizona losing in the first day. Then Purdue follows it up by losing, becoming the second number 1 seed to lose in the opening round. Then Kansas loses to Arkansas in the next in their round of 32. Marquette loses in their round against Michigan State, a round short of the Final Four. You have Princeton, who's in the Sweet 16, a 15 seed. FAU at the 9 seed going up against Tennessee. They beat Fair Dickinson, who beat Purdue in that opening round. So, I mean, we've probably shouldn't be too surprised at some of these teams that are advancing, but I think what's the surprising part maybe for some people, it's, again, the teams you never heard of. The Fair Dickinsons. You never heard of them. A lot of people probably never heard of Furman either, who defeated Virginia. We've heard of Princeton, but it's not usually for their basketball prowess. But that's what we shouldn't really be surprised, I don't think, for this tournament for as much of the upsets that we've seen so far. We kind of knew that heading into this thing. And there's still some of the best teams that have been the best teams throughout the country still alive. Houston, Alabama, UCLA, Gonzaga. Tennessee was always flirting with, at the top of the rankings too. So I love this. I think Alabama and San Diego State, that could be an intriguing game. I think the Blue Jays of Creighton's going to move on. They're going to defeat Princeton. They're going to move on to the Elite Eight. They could be a dangerous team. I mean, they were shooting the lights out last night when I was watching that game with Hutsy before he went to bed. Felt like anytime Baylor was trying to make a little bit of a run, Blue Jays would just hit a big shot. It's just the Baylor could not catch any momentum. I think Houston-Miami could be an intriguing game. Xavier in Texas is going to be really good. Sean Miller, back at Xavier, back in the Sweet 16. I like these, 3 of these matchups here with Alabama and San Diego State, Houston, Miami, and Xavier, Texas, I think are going to be really good matchups. I think Tennessee will take care of FAU. Kansas State, Michigan State. It's Tom Izzo, so I guess I can never really count him out. Arkansas, UConn. I think UConn is just, they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. UCLA is all dependent on health. That to me is so dependent on health. They're a little bit banged up right now, but if they can just grind on through this and get there, they can get to the Final Four. But health is going to be a major thing for UCLA. And the Zags, Mark Few, for a lot of people, is still the best basketball coach, college basketball coach without a championship. And the Zags have been close a couple times these past few years, going to the tournaments as 1 seed. This year, kind of quietly getting in there. They're a 3 seed this year. But maybe that's the best thing for the Zags. To not have that major spotlight on them, to not have like, okay, they finally get the championship. Will Mark Few finally get an NCAA championship? Will the Zags finally get it? Maybe this is the best thing for them, kind of, a little bit under the radar. Can they get by UCLA? And then face either UConn or Arkansas for the right to get to the Final Four. So for all these like newish teams in here, there's still a lot of there's still a few of the OGs, the teams that have been there before, like the Zags, like Michigan State and Tom Izzo. But have you been enjoying this tournament so far? I have. I know there's been some blowout games that have been kind of like duds. Or some games that just didn't seem very close, especially like in the second round. It felt like that was the case more. Like there wasn't as many like whoa games like in the first round, which I mean, I get it. But in the West region, those second round games, I mean, Arkansas just squeaking by 10 at Kansas, Gonzaga squeaking by TCU, UCLA, Northwestern. They were some close matchups. But the first round, I think, was a little bit more entertaining. Second round, okay. But I think the Sweet 16 is going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. Get some intriguing matchups in this thing. I think the game that I'm looking forward to the most in the Sweet 16, I'm going to go Gonzaga UCLA. Again, a lot of that to me is just the health for UCLA in that thing. Second might be Xavier in Texas. That might be the second most intriguing one, but I'm gonna go with the Zags and UCLA. Speaking of which, are you following the Badgers run through the NIT? They got the Oregon Ducks coming up tomorrow night. They win that thing, they're going to the NIT Final Four. They barely squeaked by Liberty. Chucky Hepburn dropping over 20 points in the game was 0. Didn't hit a 3 yesterday. If you didn't watch it, or maybe you weren't following along or anything like that, Badgers got the 75 to 71 victory. But the Badgers stunk from 3. I mean, they sucked from 3-point. They were 1 of 15. They shot 6.7% from 3. However, overall, they were 54% from the field. Chucky, 27 points. Tyler Wall, 16. Stephen Kral following up his 30-plus point performance the other night with 14. Just 4 points off the bench for the Badgers. But now they got number 1 seed Oregon for a right to go to the Final Four. Have you been kind of following along? Been paying attention? Maybe in the first game, you're like, nah. Then it's like, okay, Liberty, let's see. But maybe now you're kind of following along a little bit more that it's going to be a late game tomorrow because it's in Oregon. It's at 8 o'clock. Or maybe you're like, talk to me when they get to the last 4, the Final Four. Do they call it the Final Four in the NIT? I don't even know. Or maybe you're just like, nah, it's the NIT. Who cares? Who cares? It's the NIT. I'll admit it. Yeah, I've been kind of, I was watching the Liberty game yesterday. I was following along. I was paying attention to it. I was getting into it. I was yelling at the TV. I was throwing, fists in the air. Okay, maybe not that, but, you're a sports fan. You're just trying to, come on. They got it done. Hopefully they get it done against Oregon. Hopefully they get that Final Four. Hopefully they get it done there. I don't know if they'll raise a banner for an NIT championship if they get to that point, but that's not for me to decide. So, but I've been following along a little bit. And, for these youngsters like Stephen Kral, okay, you put up 30-some points in your first matchup. How do you build upon that for next year? I'm hoping some of these guys are using this and, like trying to how do you build upon this for next year? Because next year you got to get back to the NCAA tournament. Got to get back there. All right, let's wrap up stuff. We'll take our final break. Hey, we had some more trades in the NFL. One player that Packers fans for the last couple years kind of wouldn't have minded if he was traded to Green Bay. Alas, it ain't going to happen. We'll tell you who. Wrapping things up here this morning. You know what we forgot to do? Sports Nuggets of the Day brought to you by Ansay Associates. So let's do that really quickly here. 1897, the first intercollegiate basketball game that used 5 players per team was held. The contest was Yale versus Pennsylvania. Yale won by a score of 32-10. 1911, the National Squash Tennis Association was formed in New York City. 1914, the first International Figure Skating Championship was held in New Haven, Connecticut. Let's go 1918. The Toronto Arenas beat the Vancouver Millionaires to become the first NHL team to compete in the Stanley Cup Finals. 1948, a lot of firsts here. The University of Michigan beat Dartmouth to win the first NCAA men's hockey championship. Let's go 1968. Wilt Chamberlain became the first center in NBA history to lead the league in assists. He ended the season with 702 with an average of 8.6 per game. Let's go. Wow, this is a little morbid kind of. 1981, the NFL owners adopted a disaster plan for, quote, restocking a team should a club be involved in a fatal accident. Ooh. 1989, it was announced that Pete Rose, the Cincinnati Reds manager, was under investigation. 1990, the Lakers retired Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's 33. And do we got anything else? No, that's about it. Those are some of your sports nuggets of the day. Again, brought to you by Ansay Associates. Okay. Packers fans for the last couple of years have kind of mentioned this player's name as a possible trade target and such. Well, it ain't happening. Brandon Cooks, Houston Texans former wide receiver, traded over the weekend to the Dallas Cowboys. So he's staying in the same state, he's moving to a different team, different conference. So Brandon Cooks, he has been traded. This is what he's been traded a lot in his, and he's not even like, I think he's still late 20s. I'll have to, how old is Brandon Cooks? Let me just Google it really quick here. Brandon Cooks. I don't feel like he's that. He's 29. Right now he's 29. When's his birthday? Does it whatever, it don't matter. But he's been traded for a first round pick, second round pick, third round pick, fifth round, sixth round, all throughout his career. I think Houston's probably the longest time he's stayed with one team or such, but he's on the move. Wonder if that means the Cowboys are out of the Odell Beckham Jr. sweepstakes. I have to imagine you got CD Lamb and Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks, and I'm assuming they want their tight end Dalton Schultz back too, but we'll see. Laramie Tunsil becoming the highest paid offensive tackle in the game again, agreeing to a new 3-year deal. Talk about a guy, remember, he was the guy too where his draft stock fell, and I think it was Houston that had that first pick, but it was like right before the draft started, and then that video came out, him with the gas mask, a little marijuana, and he fell to Miami, but well, there you go. Ends up still being back in Texas and making a lot of money and playing some good football down there. If you're wondering about the draft process, pro days are beginning this week for a lot of the quarterbacks. So get ready for a lot of trying to figure out which quarterback's going to be drafted number 1 overall with the Panthers moving up there. Is it going to be CJ Stroud? Is it still going to be Young? Is it going to be Richardson? Could it be somebody else? Who knows? Another nuggets from Peter King's column this morning. That trade with the Bears and the Panthers might have gone a little bit differently here. How about this? After a conversation with Bears general manager Ryan Poles the other night, it sounds like the trade was almost the trade. What we mean by that is Poles told me he had significant discussions with Houston at number 2 that could have made him trade down twice in the top 10 with both the Texans and the Panthers. He wouldn't be specific on what broke down, but he did say, I thought there was an opportunity to do something historically pretty cool with a trade from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 9. That had potential to add more draft capital this year, and then the possibility that you're sitting on 3 number 1 picks the following year. That had my attention, but my gut told me to trigger on it now. At the Combine, I thought those quarterbacks did an outstanding job in their interview process. A lot of teams felt really good about some of those guys, but as you get further away from the Combine, Maybe there's a bad pro day or something that turns a team off. Can you imagine? Bears fans, I would have to imagine just being ecstatic about that. I mean, they were pumped about this trade, but can you imagine? And I don't know if it would be, I don't know if they would have been still able to acquire DJ Moore if they were moving from 2nd to 9. I don't know. But I would have to imagine they would have to have been ecstatic to move from 1 to 2 and then move from 2 to 9 and acquiring all that capital, that draft capital. And having like 3 ones next year too. Whew. That would have been something. That would have been something. It looks like if I had a drum roll hotkey. So if we decided, I went through all the votes. Your Badgers, sports figures, Mount Rushmore. Barry Alvarez was like on everybody's pick. I think he was on everybody's pick. Ron Dane was on the majority of everybody's selections too. And then it goes Bo Ryan and then Mark Johnson. Those were the majority of the picks. That's how it all played out for everybody who voted right now. We had a couple more come in, but they were just what we mentioned. So if I tallied up all the votes, your Badger Mount Rushmore, as voted on by you, the listeners, Barry, Dane, Bo, Johnson. Don't yell at me if you don't like it. That's just how the votes played out, okay? That's how they all voted, We'll ask RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst from the Zone in Masson tomorrow, if he agrees with it, who he would put in, who he would put out. But that's how you all voted. If you want to argue about it, you can banter about it. Send me a message and I'll pass it along. But that's how it rolls. That's how it's rolling. Everybody who picked their new Final Fours, everybody picked Alabama in theirs. That was the only team that everybody had was Alabama. Otherwise, it was all over the place for everything else. It was either like Houston or Texas, UConn and the Zags, and UCLA was kind of, I would say, evenly divided there a little bit. A lot more Tennessee's coming out of their region too. So, but it is what it is at this point, right? It is what it is. So it's been a fun tournament. I've enjoyed it. Let me just double check something. Oh, that was another text coming in here. Okay, so, all right. If you missed our conversation in the 7 o'clock hour with Mr. Peter King, you can check it out on our podcast. We'll have that up shortly after we shut the mics off here this morning. So if you want to, get your listen in, we'll have that up. Brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Again, big thanks for Peter for taking some time here this morning with us. And obviously, we chatted a lot about Aaron Rodgers, trade comp, that sort of thing. He feels like a fair trade for both sides will be the Packers getting a second round this year with the potential of either a first or a third round in 2025, not 2024, 2025, if Aaron plays in 2024. If that is the trade package that Green Bay would get, would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with that? Feel like we all know Green Bay's probably digging their heels in, like Aaron said. Still pushing for a first-round pick. Maybe trying to catch the Jets being a little desperate. Asking high, maybe settling a little bit lower. I feel like the longer this is going, though, I feel like that dream of a first-round pick is not happening. I feel like it's not going to happen. I could be wrong. I don't feel like it's going to happen. Because I feel like if the Jets were offering a first-round pick, this would have been completed by now. And like Peter said, too, if you get to about a week before the draft, maybe get a little nervous. But he feels like it'll be done before then. I think in his column, he ends it by his prediction being April 7th. It'll be done. Friday of the Masters. Big thanks to everybody who texted, tweeted, commented in with your Mount Rushmore picks, with your Final Fours. A lot of you chiming in this morning, some first-timers. Appreciate that. Big thanks. So Keep doing that, though, all right? Keep doing that. I know I forgot to send out an email this morning for our little water cooler coffee clutch sort of thing. But if you want to join that group that we got going on, you can head to sportstalk1051.com and just click on the subscribe and win tab, and you can find out more info. It's just an email that I send every morning. That kind of gets a conversation going and throws out a question. Then you can email me your responses and all that sort of stuff. So, but you can send those on over to me. Hey, to the texter who said Ron Day doesn't belong, he didn't do anything in the pros. Every one of his offensive line was really good in the pros. To be fair, we're not talking about pros. We're talking about Badger sports. And again, if you don't like it, that's how the votes went. Send me your top 4 then of just Badger tenured. Who would you put on the Badger Mount Rushmore? All right, DP and the Danettes, they're going to be up next. Have a good rest of your Monday. Tomorrow morning, we'll do a little grind my gears for a Tuesday. Got a little pop quiz, and we'll do a little press pass as well. Have a good rest of your Monday. First day of spring, right? Let's start to see it here. All right, we'll talk to you again tomorrow morning just past 6. See you then.